Well, Major David McBride is a graduate of Oxford University and Sandhurst Military Academy and was an officer in both the British and Australian armies. After 2 tours of Afghanistan with the Australian forces, he became a whistleblower against the Australian High Command. He now faces 5 charges of espionage and a possible lifetime in prison. David McBride, welcome to Compass.
Thank you very much, Jason. It's a joy to be back.
I appreciate your time, David, and today with some rather good news. This story that published in The Guardian has the support of 30 crossbench MPs that specifically name you as one of 2 whistleblowers that must have their charges dropped. How do you feel?
Yeah, look, it's pretty good. 30 is a big number. It used to be like about 5 or something. Yeah, I'm very proud. But what they're saying makes common sense. The idea that the government can put you in jail for calling out the government for doing the wrong thing is obviously ridiculous, and it's increasingly embarrassing for the Labor Party to support that. Hopefully the numbers will grow. As we discussed before the show, it may be because people are just wanting to, in a medieval fashion, get on the winning side. If nothing else, if I do go to jail, hopefully there'll be enough pressure that I don't stay in there for very long.
Well, we hope that never happens, but it's a big deal when you've got the support of 30 MPs, as you said, that are now looking and realising what's going on. And David, the reality is that the government, in this day and age, the idea that they're pushing misinformation laws and want to be the sole arbiter, in your case, you are the lightning rod for misinformation because you have provided actual documentary evidence that proves the Australian government in the wrong in some pretty hairy ways. This should be the turning point, shouldn't it, for realising that the government cannot be in charge of such rules?
Yeah, now you get it and your listeners get it. And that's why TNT is so important. It really is. Because it's dangerous. I mean, it's the canary in the coal mine, and not everybody, political junkies like you and I, but if they get through misinformation laws, if they manage to put me in jail for calling them out for lying, and you rightly said, it's all about the leadership and the political people driving it. We are in a dystopian world. You know, they can put out false newspapers. The Prime Minister can kill his wife and say it was suicide, and because that's what it comes down to. The principles matter. If the security services can break the law, and the only person, if someone talks about it, they're the ones that go to jail. We are in a dystopian world. Don't think that it won't be abused. I mean, all the post 9/11, security laws. Are all being abused. They're meant to be targeting people who are going to blow up the Harbour Bridge, but they put people like me and I mean, they can't even say, with Richard Boyle they can't even say national security. The guy was reporting about tax practices in Adelaide on small businesses. There is no way that is some sort of secret that the Chinese could use against us. And yet they're still trying to claim some sort of a damage to national security. Obviously, the question people have got to ask is, if they're trying to hide they're obviously just trying to scare other people, other whistleblowers, and what else are they trying to hide? And as you said, the truth laws, the Ministry of Truth laws, and we all know about COVID, and there's obviously a lot of things they do not want to come out, and they're more worried about what other things people are going to reveal. And we need to take a stand on this. This is really a hill worth dying on.
Certainly is. And in politics, there's a term known as a political wedge. And it's been used in this story to say that if Australia goes down the pathway and was to incarcerate you, it would be a stain on Australia's international reputation and would undermine our ability to call out the prosecution of dissidents and truth tellers in other countries. Do you concur?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of posts on Twitter that have had 50,000 views. When Penny Wong said something like, "Oh, fantastic news in Afghanistan! Look what Australia has done," and I was like, "Shut up, Penny." The reality is, we abandoned our allies. We let the Taliban take over after 20 years and $6 trillion and 40 Australian deaths. You are just mouthing platitudes from the White House talking points. You're not even checking them. They don't even add up to the truth. And it is a wedge. And then I sometimes hear us say, oh, isn't it terrible China's put this person on trial for breaching national security when all they are is a dissident? It just makes me laugh. And you just kind of think, where do you get off on criticizing other countries when you've got someone? I was within the system. I had a high security clearance, as you said. I'd been to all the right schools and universities. And somehow I'm not a dissident. I'm a criminal. But the Chinese or the Iranians or whoever, how dare they put people in jail for speaking out against, the government? That is obviously a crime. And they say it with a straight face. And just like, we are becoming a dystopian world. If you can put me in jail and say that it's a good, natural thing for nationalism, but you could look at other countries and say, oh my God, what has happened to their rule of law?
The rule of law is something that completely is in what we see as a two-tier system. But first there was Julian Assange and the news that came out recently. That was a big deal because the same level of support, and you've actually got politicians flying to the US next week to make the case. And then there is David McBride and Richard Boyle. David, I want to thank you for your time today on Compass.
Thank you for your work, Jason. Keep it up. You're going to save the world, you and your listeners.
David McBride, thanks for your time today on World Series News.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's a pleasure to be on, and keep up the good work.